In what felt like a season-defining moment for the Dallas Cowboys, a team that has captured the hearts of fans across the nation but has also been burdened by the ups and downs of a roller coaster 2025 campaign, the recent loss to the Detroit Lions, a 44-30 defeat that on paper might have seemed like a devastating blow to their playoff hopes, has paradoxically become a catalyst for cautious optimism. Because while the scoreboard suggested the Cowboys were faltering at a critical juncture in their pursuit of postseason glory, the simultaneous unraveling of the Philadelphia Eagles, a team that had previously looked like the NFC East juggernaut to beat, has thrown open a window of opportunity that, though narrow and demanding, could realistically allow Dallas to claw its way back into contention if they can navigate the remaining slate of games with precision, focus, and an unwavering commitment to executing at their peak, a scenario that for fans feels both tantalizing and nerve-wracking. Because the narrative of the season has now shifted from one of near-certain disappointment to one where hope flickers amid chaos and misfortune in the division, where each remaining game is imbued with high stakes and the potential for dramatic swings that could either propel the Cowboys into the playoffs or dash those dreams entirely. For a team and fan base that has often prided itself on letting performance speak louder than speculation about rivals, this moment is unusual because it forces attention outward, toward a team, the Eagles, that many Cowboys supporters have historically preferred to ignore, dismissing their games, stats, and drama unless Dallas was directly involved, yet with Philadelphia's recent collapse, marked most vividly by their overtime loss to the Los Angeles Chargers, in which Jalen Hurts threw 4 interceptions and tallied 5 turnovers total. The division landscape has tilted in Dallas's favor, creating a scenario in which a once daunting path to the playoffs suddenly appears navigable, provided that the Cowboys can rise to the occasion against a sequence of remaining opponents that, while not easy, is winnable with disciplined play, strategic execution, and perhaps a bit of that intangible momentum that only comes when a team senses opportunity and refuses to let it slip away. The specifics of the scenario are worth unpacking, because for the Cowboys, the journey from a 9% playoff probability, which seemed almost negligible after the Lions' loss, to a realistic path toward the postseason depends on winning every remaining game, starting with the Minnesota Vikings, a team with talent and resilience that will not make the journey easy, followed by a rematch with the Los Angeles Chargers, who recently demonstrated their capacity to topple the Eagles and therefore serve as both a benchmark and a warning for what the Cowboys must do to secure victory, then on to the Washington Commanders, and finally the New York Giants, teams that, while not dominating the league, represent the type of opponents that can be dangerous if Dallas underestimates them or fails to play with intensity. Because in the NFL, as every fan knows, any team can steal a win on any given Sunday, and the margin for error is razor thin, meaning that for the Cowboys, the remaining 4 games are not merely steps on a schedule, but existential tests of consistency, resilience, and the ability to rise above previous struggles, including the defensive lapses and road game inconsistencies that have plagued the team for much of the season. The irony of this situation is not lost on fans, who, after witnessing what seemed like the final straw against Detroit, now find themselves cautiously optimistic thanks to the Eagles' struggles, because a team that had once seemed untouchable within the division is now faltering, with an 8-5 record that contrasts sharply with their earlier dominance when they stood at 8-2 or 8-3, signaling that the losses are starting to pile up and that no lead, no matter how comfortable, is permanent. A lesson that Cowboys fans are intimately familiar with, and one that underscores the unpredictable nature of the NFL, where fortunes can pivot dramatically in a matter of days, and where a team's destiny is never fully secured until the final whistle blows. The psychological dimension is equally critical, because for Dallas, confidence, momentum, and belief play as much a role as X's and O's, particularly when considering the road challenges that could await them if they were to enter the playoffs as a wildcard team, a path that seems increasingly unlikely given the stacked NFC and the difficulty of securing victories in hostile environments, yet the alternative, winning the division, has become increasingly attainable precisely because of the Eagles' decline, and this juxtaposition of opportunity and challenge is what keeps fans glued to their screens, checking standings obsessively, debating strategies, and hoping that the team can maintain focus and capitalize on every opening. This is not just a statistical exercise either, because the Cowboys' remaining opponents each bring unique challenges that require tailored preparation, from the Vikings' balanced offense and opportunistic defense to the Chargers' confidence-boosted squad that just toppled the Eagles, to the Commanders and Giants, teams that are hungry for respect and victories and capable of exploiting any lapse in Dallas's execution, meaning that the Cowboys cannot afford to take any game lightly, even those that might appear on paper as winnable. And this is where fan perspective becomes particularly vivid, as the combination of hope, anxiety, and deep understanding of the team's tendencies creates a roller coaster of emotions for supporters who know that perfection is required but are eager to believe in the possibility, a dynamic that fuels online debates, pre-game rituals, and water cooler conversations alike. Statistically, the picture is equally fascinating because a perfect run through the remaining 4 games would not only dramatically increase the Cowboys' playoff probability from the current 9%, but would also put them in position to capitalize on the Eagles' vulnerabilities, whose schedule, despite appearances, presents potential pitfalls, including 2 games against the Commanders and a challenging matchup against the Buffalo Bills, a team powered by Josh Allen, whose individual brilliance could be decisive even if the rest of the roster is inconsistent, and whose stakes in the final weeks of the season remain high, as the Bills compete for AFC positioning, creating scenarios where the Cowboys' postseason fate is intertwined not only with their own performance, but also with the outcomes of games elsewhere in the league, an interdependence that adds layers of complexity, suspense, and fan engagement, transforming what might have been a straightforward schedule into a living drama that requires constant attention, discussion, and emotional investment. Amid this backdrop, fan culture and media engagement play a complementary role because discussions of playoff probability, team strategy, and divisional dynamics are amplified by the presence of fantasy sports platforms such as Sleeper, which engage fans interactively and provide additional avenues for investment, prediction, and community involvement, reinforcing the notion that football fandom is not just passive observation, but a participatory experience where individual knowledge, intuition, and enthusiasm intersect with the performance of real-life teams, creating a feedback loop that heightens emotional stakes, social interaction, and personal attachment to outcomes. And in this context, the Cowboys' fortunes take on broader meaning, extending beyond wins and losses to encompass identity, loyalty, and collective hope, a phenomenon that makes each remaining game more than a contest, but a narrative event with implications for community, conversation, and shared experience. The narrative